Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So I guess we're here to talk about DAOs. This talk is going to be about hard truths. It's going to be a bit spicy, like the food here. And for those of you who don't know who I am, a quick intro. I'm Lefteris. I've been in Ethereum for a bit. I worked on Solidity Compiler and the C++ Ethereum. Later, I created, along with Christoph here, the DAO and helped with the cleanup afterwards. I was the dev lead for the Raiden network, and for a long time now I'm the founder of Rodkey, the portfolio management and tracking and accounting tool that respects your privacy. So let's get some definitions first. What is a DAO? There can be many definitions, but the main thing is that it's a smart contract with a set of rules that governs some kind of cooperation between people. Trivia. In the Thai language, DAO is a star. I learned it very recently, and it's also a name that was sometimes given to girls. There is nice other definitions like groups with a bank account, crypto co-op. I really like the word financial flash mob, because you have a lot of people who gather together and they just buy the constitution, let's say, or attempt to. So what is a DAO good for? Being a smart contract, it's auditable, it's open source, it's transparent. A DAO also works on the blockchain, which is a transparent ledger, and as such, you can see what it does and what it touches. It's very easy to use. You don't need to set up a company, you just press a button and you deploy a contract, an audited contract, so you probably use a template, you just customize it a bit, and it's also very cheap. There is only gas fees. If you have to do a company, you have to do notaries, legal fees, there's a lot of work. It's accessible to everybody. DAOs don't discriminate about jurisdiction, about nationality, about anything. What are the problems? There's many problems with DAOs. Coordination is one. Regulatory unclarity, something that we're going to talk a bit about. Many DAOs perform decentralization theater. We're going to talk about this quite a bit. And there is participation incentives. If any of you have worked with a DAO or anything, you will probably notice that after the honeymoon period, you tend to lose interest. There is many examples, like the DAO, Yearn, Pleasure, ENS, Friends with Benefits, Optimism. There is many. There is no point talking about them here in this part. So let's go to the hard truth. What are the problems with DAOs? A very big problem is absence of regulations. Everything I say is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer in any way, but who is liable, for example? When a DAO does something, we are talking about liability always. Who is liable when a DAO does something? Is it the deployer? Is it the author? Is it the participants, the token holders? In the end, it may not matter. What many DAOs do today and what we did back then in 2016 is we didn't deploy that original DAO. We just created the code, and we gave the bytecode to the community, and they deployed it multiple times. I don't even remember how many, 40, 50, and then they were chosen randomly by a random function in Slack. This was also a way to say that it wasn't deployed by a particular company. In the end, all this kind of stuff don't matter. If they actually want to say that a company deployed it, they just would write it. This is from the SEC paper on the DAO, and what it says is that on or about April 1926, Slockit deployed the DAO code on the Ethereum blockchain. They completely disregarded having the deployment as a member from the community. They just completely disregarded the entire thing. So the point here being that it doesn't really matter. In the end, if someone wants to say that you deployed a DAO, they will just say that you deployed the DAO. When you work for a DAO, and I have done that, and I guess many of you actually have worked for a DAO, you probably have a tax accountant at some point, and they ask you, hey, so where is the invoice for this payment? You're like, invoice? What's that? You have issued an invoice, right? Okay, you're right. Optimism. But what is optimism? Where is it? Where is the jurisdiction? Where is it located? Is it located in the EU? You're also located in the EU. So you need to pay VAT. There is many, many questions, and the worst thing is that when they make these questions, you're already screwed. They can just claim whatever they want if you can't prove it. They can claim that you need to retroactively pay VAT on every one of your invoices. This has happened to some people, so it's actually a really dangerous thing working for a DAO. Participating in a DAO, there is potential legal liabilities. This is from Oki DAO. They basically, at some point, wanted them to shut down, the CFTC, and they gave them a penalty. So they found the DAO is a person, and they gave them a penalty of $643,000. Now, who is responsible to pay for this? Are the token holders responsible? Is the governance responsible? Would they hold a vote to pay this fine? There is many questions about who is liable for a DAO. This talk is about questions, not answers. I don't have the answers, by the way. Taxes. Everybody loves taxes, right? Especially DAOs. DAOs operate, and many of them make money. That money is not taxed at all, because most DAOs don't belong in any jurisdiction. They will tell you we're in the Ethereum jurisdiction. Well, tell that to the lawyer. If they are under a jurisdiction, they would probably have to do some kind of AML and KYC. So how do they do that, even? The question is always, which jurisdiction does the DAO fall under? Because that's where you would see, does it need to do AML? Does it need to pay taxes? And so on and so forth. Regulations aside, which don't have much answers, we can also talk about something really important, which is the decentralization theater that many DAOs do today. This is the biggest statement that this talk wants to make, is that there are no DAOs today. Almost everything that you call a DAO today is really just not a DAO. The majority of stuff is just Discord administered organizations. You just open a Discord server, you deploy a 4 out of 7 multisig, and then you deploy a token that is owned by the multisig. Now, who are the multisig owners, the signers? It's probably you and your friends, or you and your 4 addresses or 7 addresses. And then after you give it to the community. Then a day passes, or a week, or a month, and then you rug pull, or you just, you close down it. You tried, it's fine, you did your best, but you have already sold most of the tokens. Your community became your exit liquidity. That's definitely not a DAO. That's a scam. There is many scams like that out there. This is the most obvious not a DAO thing. There is other things, though. Something that many companies in this field and many big names are absolutely doing, and it's horrible. What many people do is that they create a product. They have a company behind the product. Then they say, we could do better. We could actually make a DAO. And then we have 2 cap tables. We have the original investors of the first company, and then we have also the token holders. They're also investors in a sense. You raise double the amount of money because also the people put money into the token, so they actually become your exit liquidity slowly. You don't need to promise them anything. The DAO doesn't promise anything ever. But just because of proximity to the original product, of proximity to the original team and original company, the token gets value. And in many of these cases, it gets a lot of value. And then, both for the founders and for the VC investors, the original company has beautiful exit liquidity through the token. This is something that many big names today are doing, and I have lost respect for basically a lot of OGs in the field that are just doing this, which is, you could call it a scam, but it's a kind of a smart way to scam people. It's not a DAO. I was talking with someone who was trying to advise me on what to do with Rodkey. And I had problems. Like, there is always problems about liabilities, regulation, taxes. We're a German company. We have to pay a lot of taxes. There is legal questions about everything. Sometimes, do we have to KYC our users? Why don't you just solve it easily? You just make a DAO. Just make a BVI foundation. Everything is easy. You just make a DAO, and then you just sidestep everything. So, a DAO is not a way to sidestep regulations. It shouldn't be. Another thing that DAOs tend to do in order to create decentralization theater is to attract governance participants. So they make a token, they airdrop it, they call it airdropping responsibility to you. And they ask you to become a delegate in the DAO. So you make it look like the delegates are deciding. You get big names. I am actually in some DAOs, and I have regretted it because I gave legitimacy to DAOs that do not deserve it. In truth, what happens is they plan, they do everything, and what you do is just rubber stamp. But by doing the rubber stamping, what you end up doing is giving legitimacy as a big name in the field to something that's actually not a DAO. So DAO governance is what some DAOs use in order to legitimize the project. And then plutocracy. Essentially, as token voting goes, most of the tokens, they have a very, very, very bad distribution. It's either the founder or the investors that hold the majority of the token. They decide what to do, then they vote to do it, and then sometimes they hide it by doing the friends or employees of the foundation or whatever that have delegated the tokens to, and then it appears as if it's decentralized, but in reality, if you see where does the token delegation come from, it's actually from the founders. So we're going to do a few case studies. We're going to check at ENS, MakerDAO, and Optimism. ENS. This is how ENS was split, 25% to core contributors, 25% as an airdrop to everybody that had an ENS name, 50% to the DAO treasury itself. Then they made a foundation. It is in the Cayman Islands non-profit. It represents the DAO in the real world, and the directors were actually appointed by governance. So there was a governance vote. I am a part of the DAO, so I did vote for who is the head of the foundation. The ENS Foundation actually tries to solve the problems that I mentioned before, which is the liability for the participants, taxation for the DAO, because the DAO actually makes money. Like all these ENS names that you guys are getting, part of the fee, or all the fee, I don't remember, goes to the DAO. This is the income. And this is why the foundation exists. It can also enter into contracts. So if you get a grant, you can actually put the ENS Foundation as your counterparty. And then there is ENS Labs. This is the main company that develops the protocol, and it has a founding team. They have governance, they have big names, they have a security council, which is the very, very top voter here. This is just for to veto against governance attacks. The treasury is managed by Karpatki. Everything is executed on chain. The governance does own, indeed, the token. It can do things on chain. So the governance has power in ENS. Unfortunately, while the DAO does have control, then who controls the DAO is that still ENS Labs has quite a strong presence in the DAO. Not as bad as other DAOs, but still, if you see, like some people here are indeed part of ENS Labs, and some people here, if you check the delegations that they have, they are actually also by like 1 or 2 people from ENS Labs. It's kind of a DAO, it has issues, but it's sufficiently decentralized, I would say. From the test cases case studies that I'm making here, it's probably the best. So then going to MakerDAO. MakerDAO, it was founded by Rune Christensen in 2015. They created the Maker token. We all know it. It's an amazing DeFi protocol. It has created the CDPs, the first decentralized stablecoin like SAI, known as DAI at the time. Then they launched a multi-collateral DAI. They dissolved the foundation because they said now we're decentralized. Then Rune came back in 2022 and then rebranded to Sky and then regretted it. It's a bit of a mess right now. The allocation of Maker, though, it's a bit weird. It's like 69.5 to founders of the project and 15 to the team. Okay. Then we have Rune. Rune is the founder, as I said, and he's essential. He is basically a guy that does everything. The problem, as stated in the podcast, the Unchained one, can Rune fix the sad state of DAO governance? The problem is that there is DAO governance in Maker, but it's not a DAO, and it's absolutely not governance. When you own most of the Maker and you delegate it to your friends, and delegates are paid by how much they are delegated to, then everybody will do what you say. At that point, it's not really a DAO. It's basically Rune's DAO. It basically only Anons are supposed to be able to delegate it to because of fear of safety. So the very few big holders, which are funds, the original investors, they do not delegate to anybody because they can't delegate to Anons. And then, I don't know, if you read the forums, there is a lot of things. I don't want to go into many details, but it looks more like a cult than a DAO. So I would say that Maker DAO is not a DAO. It's probably a cult. I really don't know what it is right now. Then, going to optimism. This is another DAO that I'm actually participating actively in, and I have kind of regretted it. DAO launched in April 2022. They kept a big part, like 20% for retroactive public goods funding. This is why I actually went to, for the public goods. They have a partner fund that's managed by what they created later, a foundation, and the investors and the team also got a big allocation. They also created the Cayman Islands Foundation. It does exactly the same thing as the NS Foundation, so that it can interact with real-world entities. But the problem starts here, that it's towards the evolution of the collective governance. I have an issue with this, and you will see what it is. And they have 4 years mandate, but they hope to decentralize before that. The hope is dying. So governance. The governance of optimism is like this. These are the biggest delegates. I'm also there. They have big names in delegate. It's very, very well organized in seasons. And they have 2 bicameral governance. So basically, it's the token house and the citizen house. The token house is what is in every single DAO. So the op token, it's just plutocracy essentially. And then there's the citizen house. The citizen house is that they just choose people from the community. They give them a badge, as they call it, and then it's 1 person, 1 vote. The citizen house decides for RPGF and has a veto against the token house if there is some kind of capture. Unfortunately, neither house owns anything. The governance is powerless. They do nothing. It's all just bells and whistles. They have the super chain. It's a collective of chains that's building on the op stack. They have managed to attract very big names. The idea is to create an interoperable layer 2. What attracted me to Optimism was the RPGF, the idea of the sequencer fees being directed towards public goods. Each superchain actually is supposed to direct a percentage of their fees towards public goods. In reality, at the moment, because the sequencer fees are quite low, they are still using the 20% allocation of the original token. The problem is that the decision of everything here still lies with the foundation. Governance doesn't deal with this. Like, nobody decides, apart from the foundation, about how this will be done. So, optimism is the definition of decentralization theater. It really is probably what should be in the books about decentralization theater. The DAO owes nothing. You have governance that does nothing. It's just rubber stamping. The foundation says, we will do this. Yes or no? Well, I mean, they own most of the governance participants, so it will always be yes. The structure is suggested by the foundation. The RPGF structure is suggested by the foundation. The rules, how much money will go. Everything is managed by the foundation. There is a promise for decentralization, but it does take forever, and at some point, you start to wonder, like, I want to put a snapshot that we voted, that we want to have more decentralized, and then say, okay, we'll try, and that's it. I don't know. So, Optimism is an amazing tech stack. I'm a very big fan, actually, of the tech stack. I used all the Optimism chains. It's a very well-run business. They have attracted the biggest names, like Kraken for Inc., Base for Coinbase for Base. But it's a company. It's a business. It's a very well-run business. It is not a DAO. So, is basically all hope lost? Should DAOs not exist? Well, there are some DAOs that actually are what I would consider a DAO, like the Constitution guys. They just wanted to buy the Constitution. They just all gathered and said, let's buy the constitution. 47 million in ETH was raised in a very, very short amount of time. They still didn't get it. They lost to a less dollar amount bid, but I think that they didn't have enough for all the processing, etc. So they said, okay, we are not going to do this. And then they disbanded. Then there is Yearn. Yearn is probably my favorite thing that I consider a DAO today. Since 2020, they're still continuing a DeFi protocol, very smart devs. The token was fairly launched, so basically everybody had the same opportunity to get it. Infamously, the founder got 0, and he left early, and it still continues, despite the founder leaving early. This is the true test of the DAO. No backing, just a nice product, and it still exists. This is exactly it. They're just a small team building awesome stuff. And lastly, as a good example, is Moloch DAO. A bunch of people said, okay, let's try to fund Ethereum ecosystem. It got summoned by Amin on the 14th of February. It has given over 1.4 million in ecosystem grants, maybe more. I am not sure about my numbers here. People like Flashbot, TrueBlocks, and also Rodkey took a DAO grant from Moloch DAO. The members coordinate. It's all open source. If you don't like what the Moloch DAO wants to give funds at, you just can rage quit, which is basically a mechanism that also kind of came from the original DAO of exiting. So, yes, there is hope and use for DAOs. It's just not what DAOs are trying to do today. The take-home message basically is very, very simple. A DAO is not a company. Like, really, just everybody needs to get it into their heads that a DAO is really not a company. It's not a way to shift liability to the users. It is not a way to avoid regulations. It's not optimism, so the decentralization theater, please don't do that. This is a disgrace. And it's not a way to lure participants with fake promises over whatever you want to say that you are going to do. Public goods, for example, with optimism, and then basically change your mind 6 months later. A DAO is a very simple thing. It's a quick way to just band together and do something. You can coordinate permissionlessly over a smart contract and build something nice. And it doesn't need to last forever. You can just make a DAO for one small thing. We can make a DAO for something here in Thailand, then disband it when we go back home. You don't need to keep a DAO like a company. I guess that's mostly it. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much. It's a very nice talk, and it was, yeah, nice to see a kind of honest exploration of these things. Yeah, I hope people don't think that this is bad or anything. I really appreciate seeing these things so that I can actually understand what is going on and what people are actually doing, and seeing how you can build it better, either yourself or how they can improve. We have a few questions, some nice ones. I'll start with a spicy one because I think you might like it. Will there, oh no, it's gone. I have to, something I didn't mention before, but people have been using it. You can upvote questions.
Okay.
And so this was one of the ones that was mostly upvoted. So why do you think we have not seen anti-plutocratic on-chain governance structures?
Because of Sybil, I guess. We can't easily find out who is who. This is exactly what Optimism is trying with the Citizen House, but then you decide who is who by just giving it to people that you know, and then that's not really equal opportunity governance.
So do you think some sort of identity things would help?
Yeah, but they have been trying them with Gitcoin, as you saw before, for so long, and it's not easy.
So what does accountability look like in a DAO structure? How do we create a stronger on-chain culture of accountability?
Accountability, yeah, good question. Well, being accountable to the DAO would mean, say that you get a grant and then you have some milestones and then you have to get them, and then if you don't finish the milestones, then you just are banned from not only this DAO, but from other DAOs. This is for grant recipients, but accountability in, let's say, I don't know, participation, etc. Yeah, this is a very hard problem to incentivize participation, because most of these DAOs, for example, you get all these people to work on a DAO, and they are, it's just unpaid work for most of them.
There's a question that kind of touches on this point. So you suggested that there's uncertainty about liability for DAO participants. However, some legal trends are becoming clear. Don't you see that there are some obvious candidates for accountability?
Candidates for what? What? I didn't really understand.
Candidates for accountability. So I guess, yeah, like legal things, like filing your taxes or...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but this is not really, this is accountability towards the state, not accountability to the DAO or to the other participants. When I hear of accountability, I just think more of how you are accountable to the DAO as an organization, not to your jurisdiction or the state.
Okay. So what is your opinion for an optimal framework to build a real DAO? What is needed for a real DAO?
Well, as I said, I don't think a DAO should be as they are today. They should be like a simple thing, just pop it up, solve a problem, disband it. Or just like Jern did, build an actual product, not a DAO and then a product. Just build an actual product, gather people around the product, and then they will just keep building it. You can call it a DAO, you can call it a band of friends doing something. I think that the DAO word is completely overused.
This is also a piece of advice that is floating around with people who are thinking about launching tokens for not necessarily governance or whatever, but for like protocols and things like that. It's also like, do the protocol and make it work. And then, so will there be a time where we will actually think before just doing the next cool thing?
Honestly, I think that this also depends a lot on us, the community, because everybody seems to approve of this stuff. If we don't use those things, if we don't approve, if we don't go to the big events organized by those people with the lot of money that they get through this decentralization theater, then maybe they would think again before trying to do this. But if we as a community really just keep approving this, they will keep doing it. It's really up to us to just say, no, guys, this is a scam. This is actually, I don't know if it's legal, but it absolutely and certainly is not ethical. Like, it really shouldn't be done this way.
So I think that's about all the time we have for questions, but I think it's a very nice point to end on, and I think it's a point that summarizes your talk very well. Like, I think it's super important that you give this talk to call out certain behavior, to say like, hey, look, this is the way we should be. We should be better. So if we want to build a nice future, we should build better. And like, I think there's lots of hope for that in the Ethereum community. I think like lots of people do have good intentions. So.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is why I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly.